He comes up to me and says really slyly, "You and your little girlfriend are sharing a bed, huh?" I inform him that she is my cousin. He just looks blankly at me and says that's okay, my first time was with my cousin. What's your most NSFW family moment? What's good, Pretendo? Thanks for coming to another one of my story times. I'm Andrew, and I'll be your storyteller for today. Since you're here, you might as well like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell button. If you don't, I'll tell your mom about your hentai collection. Let's get into the stories. I walked in on my aunt having sex with someone who's not her husband in my grandma's bed at my grandpa's funeral. My auntie rang my best mate, who was mowing her lawns during that time, and asked him to duck her. He declined. It's good because even though I don't see her often, she usually slips me $50. I figure it's her way of saying keep things quiet. Was having a wank when my dad walked in. Shocked, I turned around. I was clothed, just had my dick out. He asked what I was doing. Startled, I said nothing. Are you doing drugs? That shocked me more than him finding me wanking. I told him no, and I said I was checking my balls for lumps. Oh, okay then. He then left. Nothing more said about it. When I was 12 to 13, at a hotel room with my parents for a basketball tournament, gold medal, thanks for asking, they ducked. In the bed right next to mine. 10 mins after lights out. I never mentioned it to anybody. Last weekend I was visiting Nick, and lo and behold we share a hotel room. They ducked. Again. There was a time when my family lived in a tiny apartment. We had one bedroom with a double-deck bed. My parents slept on the bottom bunk and my older sister and I slept at the top. Well, one night I wake up to the bed shaking and peeking below. I realized my parents were having sex. I was like maybe 8 or 9, so I wasn't really grossed out, but just really confused. My sister slept through the entire thing, or so I've always thought. My husband and I had to move in with his parents for about 3 months when we were having financial issues. As I had the very last bag in my hand ready to move to our new home, I sat the bag on the living room floor and went to the bathroom. When I came out, something was going off in the bag. I said it's probably our son's Thomas the Tank toy. My mom-in-law dives right in and pulls out my vibrator and holds it up for like 30 seconds like she's the Statue of Liberty holding up her ducking torch. My father-in-law and brother-in-law were also right there in the room. Needless to say, they still bring it up, and Thomas the Train is now code for vibrator in that family. I was on a road trip with my parents and the family dog after my brother went to college, and we checked into a hotel room with 2 queen beds. My parents took one, the dog and I were in the other. My dad wanted to gross me out and said, "Now son, if you hear anything in the middle of the night, keep your eyes on that wall," and pointed behind me with one hand, putting his arm around my disgusted mom with the other. I put my arm around the dog and said okay, but I expect the same courtesy. Edit. I was not going for a bestiality joke. I was going for a masturbation joke and put my arm around the dog to try and look cool. When I was still in school, I came home with my GF at the time. We're upstairs in my room and she's giving me a blowjob. Across the room, I see the door start to slowly and ridiculously silently open. In walks my father. Sees me, sees her. Most awkward eye contact ever. In a panic, I do the only thing I could think of. I point him out the door. Just as quietly as he came in, he was gone again. And on that day, he gained my eternal respect. She still doesn't know. Thought it would be a good idea to make breakfast for my dad and stepmom. Cooked it all, got it ready and bought the plates in, and thought bringing it in unannounced would be a wonderful surprise. I was not greeted by smiles. Instead, I was presented by an image that is forever burnt into my mind. My dad under the covers, obviously plugging away, with my stepmom's head hanging off the side of the bed with her eyes closed and showing me her O-face. I retreated quickly, but my brain went, well, better put that in permanent storage and make it one of the clearest memories possible. Don't worry, you won't be forgetting any detail at all. I skipped school. I used to do it all the time because my dad worked 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. most days and was a single father. I was in my room as per norm, and he came home early. Didn't want to get caught, so stayed perfectly still. My bedroom's at the top of the stairs, the computer is right at the base of the stairs. Dad watches porn for the next hour. I think he heard a squeak cause he stopped to holler up the stairs for me. But didn't budge, didn't move, didn't say anything. Just waited. After 5 minutes passed, he's satisfied. Goes back to his business. Never told him, never skipped school again. I was helping my then boyfriend's sister move into a new place, and the keys were at the new house, and someone needed to go get them. So my boyfriend and I drove over to get them. While we were there, we did a little exploring of the new empty house. We realized there was an attic and opened the ceiling door to let the steps down. I climbed up first and, being in a skirt, gave my boyfriend a nice view. We ended up having sex right there on the attic ladder, and right in the middle we hear the door open, boyfriend's name called out, a pause, and then the door shut. We sheepishly returned to the rest of the family at the old house to find his sister trying not to laugh hysterically. She says their mother came over to try to find out what was taking so long. Upon her return, she just loudly exclaimed they were ducking. To this day it's our favorite phrase to exclaim. When I was 18, I dated a girl. She lived about an hour away, so I would stay at her house overnight, but her parents wouldn't let us stay in the same room, so I slept in a guest bed in the basement. Being 18-year-olds, we would be up very late and go to bed around 2 a.m. Her dad was some kind of delivery driver and worked around 4. He came down to the basement every single morning before work and masturbated to porn on the desktop computer while I was sleeping 10 feet away. There was only a couch between us, so the first couple times I lifted my head to see what he was doing before I realized. You better believe I didn't keep it a secret from her. I'd quietly text from under the blanket, "Your dad's jerking it again," right next to me. Back when I was in high school, I worked with my girlfriend on weekends. After work, we'd go back to her house and usually had 2-ish hours before her parents came home. On some days we'd take a nap, other days we'd watch a movie or fool around, etc. One fateful Saturday, our nap session turned into sex. As an aside, she was pretty loud, especially when she thought no one was home. So, we get started and everything is coming along nicely when all of a sudden there's some aggressive banging on her bedroom door. Of course we freak out, get dressed, and open the door only to find that it was her sister's boyfriend messing with us. So, we shut the door and get back to business in a much more aggressive manner than initially. Her moaning is now more like yelling, and I'm humping with reckless abandon when again there's another round of banging on the door. This time we ignore it and keep going for another 10-ish seconds before we hear Dad scream at us through the door. He drove me home in his police cruiser immediately after that. 45-ish minutes in silence with his shotgun in the backseat and a condom still on my super flaccid dick. When I was 14 or so, one of my cousins, from mom's side of the family, came with us to my grandparents', dad's side of the family, for Christmas Day. We were staying there the night with my entire extended family, which is a nightmare in itself. My dad's brother, after drinking all day and after finding out my cousin and I will be sharing a bed in the back of the 4WD, comes up to me and says really slyly, "You and your little girlfriend are sharing a bed, huh?" I inform him that she is my cousin, and he just looks blankly at me and says that's okay. My first time was with my cousin. I hadn't mentioned this to anyone because it was weird and made me a little uncomfortable, but my cousin got married 2 weeks ago. At the reception I told my dad about what his brother had said to me some 15 years ago. My dad just looked at me and said, "Yeah, we both had our first times with Shelly. My family is a bunch of cousin duckers." Ugh. Edit 1. For everyone asking, my mum's name is Michelle. She gets called Shelly by a family friend's kid. It's awkward for me now. My dad grew up in a small village of around 40 people, 13 of which were his parents and siblings. If the choice is duck your cousin or duck your sister, probably choose cousin. Or neither. I personally choose neither. We're in Australia, not the hillbilly redneck woods of the US, just fee. Shelly is around 65 now, she's a couple of years older than my old boy. My grandma told me one year at Christmas that Shelly had a couple of abortions back in the late 60s, early 70s, and she has ruined a handful of marriages. She's never married or had kids. She lives in a retirement village now and has told me on more than one occasion that she bones all the widowers in the retirement village. She's a crass, abrasive old crone who ducks. Good for her, I guess. Edit 2, everyone asking if I've ever met my Aunt Shelley, or calling her an elf. Do you understand how familial relationships work? My dad's cousin is not my aunt. She's my second cousin, first cousin once removed.
Like and subscribe for more funny, interesting, and scary r/ask Reddit videos.